Does Mattel's Turtles of Grayskull's TMNT MOTU crossover buck the trend of cringy or even worse, boring crossovers that we've seen in the toy aisle recently? Keep watching to find out on this episode of Geek Dad Life. Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have always been connected, even though not directly connected, over the years. There was somewhat of a passing of the torch from the original Masters of the Universe line ending in 1987 and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line starting in 1988. Both toy lines had designs and influence from Mark Taylor, and the Turtle line definitely continued that 5.5-inch scale of figures, vehicles, and playsets that Masters of the Universe dominated with in the 80s. That's why I got really excited when I first heard of a TMNT MOTU crossover that would utilize the MOTU Origins buck. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know I'm a huge fan of the MOTU Origins toy line by Mattel. I think for a lot of toy collectors now, we kind of want an Origins version of all the different properties that we grew up with, like Thundercats, Ghostbusters, and especially Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But I gotta be honest, while I was excited for the potential, there was also a potential for these things not turning out good at all. It can be hard sometimes for crossovers of different properties to work, but so far what we've seen out of the two waves, there's a ton of really fun figures that capture design elements from both Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Masters of the Universe. While Wave 1 started showing up before January 1st, 2024, its official launch date is New Year's 2024. So hopefully you'll be able to start finding these at all the different places that you like to buy toys from. I gotta give a big thanks to John from Hero Source Toys and Collectibles. If you haven't followed him, I'll put a link down in the description below. He got a set and put it aside for me to buy from his shop. Now, something we have all loved from Masters of the Universe Origins is the card back artwork or the packaging artwork. It has been a blast from the past, capturing all the things that made the original artwork for Masters of the Universe incredible. I mean, it's so good. They've already done art books on that art, and that great art continues with the Turtles of Grayskull toy line. It has the same form factor of the MOTU Origins card back, but with all new front art featuring the Turtles of Grayskull logo. We have new blasting rocks that are no longer red and blue, but now we've got purple and green, which is far more in line with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We've also got both logos for Masters of the Universe and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a sticker on the front, and then on the back of the card art, we still have both brands' logo. We have awesome card back art of the figure that you're getting, as well as figures that we'll see release in Wave 2, and then we have some cross-sell artwork, as well as windows to show different features that the accessories or the figure may have. Each of the first wave of figures comes with the same mini comic that tees up the story for this crossover event, and it goes pretty much as you would expect. We get the backstory that Krang convinced Shredder to go into the Masters of the Universe to tap into the powers of Grayskull to enhance their mutagen ooze. The Turtles, of course, tried to thwart that plan, but they all got jettisoned into the MOTU-verse and met up with Teela and Man-at-Arms. They both exchanged armor, and Mikey got to introduce Duncan to pizza for the first time. But the last page does a big reveal that Shredder and Krang and Skeletor have mutated He-Man with the mutagen ooze and have turned him into a mutant version of the most powerful man in the universe. This first wave has a mutated version of that He-Man, as well as two turtles with Leonardo and Donatello. And then we also get Man-at-Arms, who is decked out with his new Donatello Shell-Tech inspired armor. All right, getting them out of the packaging, I think there's a lot to like with this first wave of TMNT MOTU figures. I want to start with the He-Man. Now I can completely understand how some people might not like this look or this kind of radical change to the He-Man character that we all know and love, but I really dig them swinging for the fences with this character. He has much bigger arms than on a regular release He-Man figure. You know, I have the Wonder Bread He-Man here, or Wondar, with them side by side. You can see how much larger the arms and forearms and hands are on this mutated version of He-Man. I believe the chest is fairly similar, so it just seems like we've gotten upgraded arms on this mutant version of He-Man. I love the slightly translucent plastic. Some of the images had it looking super translucent, some images had it not being translucent at all. It seems like the final production figure is somewhere in between, but I just really like the look of this figure. It was the last page or last panel of the mini comic that we got with this first wave of figures, so we don't really know what this character is going to be like in this, crossover event. But just from a toys perspective, it's a lot of fun. He's been given Spike or his mace. He's also got armbands and an extra spiky belt that's been added on here. And I also love this little kind of Playmate style nod here with his toes ripped through his little fur boots. I love that little detail there. But overall, I really dig the He-Man figure. Out of the two turtles we got, I think Donatello is my favorite. I love his designs. I like that he took on the Man-at-Arms armor, but it's in this really cool pearlescent purple. And I gotta say, this is the first turtle MOTU origin style buck figure that I've held in my hands, and I think it has come across really well, with one exception. As anyone that knows turtles knows, they're actually generally shorter than humans in any of the media that they're portrayed in, or in most cases. I think maybe the Michael Bay version is the exception to that rule. But even in the comics, the turtles are shorter than, say, Man-at-Arms. But if we get the Man-at-Arms figure that is in this wave, they're about the same height, if not the turtle being slightly larger than the human buck. So it's pretty obvious that it's the same height because they use essentially the same buck system, even though we have become a new midsection with a unpainted shell on the back and that kind of shell design front to the chest. So, it's not that big a deal. It's just a little bit of a gripe in terms of the new sculpt. But overall, I think it's a neat addition. The waist actually kind of looks more like Battletoads than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, if I'm being completely honest. But overall, I really like the Donatello design. Now, something that is great about this toy line is its compatibility with your MOTU Origins figure. So I got the 2000X Snake Armor style Man-at-Arms with all of the Donatello armor, including his shell, which doubles as a shield. Both Leo and Donatello have this feature, so you can pop off his turtle shell on the back, and he can hold it in his hand as a shield. And then we actually got a Man-at-Arms figure in this wave, and he looks really, really good. I love the head sculpt. I thought the helmet would be removable, but it is not. But it is a separate piece that is glued on to his head. I love the big shoulder pads, the wrist shield there, his extra belts that has these kind of shogun or samurai warrior armors for his thigh. And then we have kind of the big kneecap and shin guard on the one leg, as Man-at-Arms always has. It's a similar mace to the Donatello, but it is a bit of a shorter staff. At first, I thought it was the same accessory, but they are slightly different for both of them, which is nice that they're two different things. And then we have his own turtle shell shield, but it is not an actual shell. But much like the Donatello and the Leonardo, you can pop off the shell, and then he can hold that shell as a shield. Really fun feature add to these toys, and I think it looks really good as a shield. But even if a human's carrying the turtle shield or the turtles, I think it works well, even if it's a little weird for the turtles. But at the very least, we still had a kind of a shell sculpted into the figure if a turtle uses his shell as a shield. And last but not least, we have Leonardo, who gets a traditional turtle head. Unlike the Man-at-Arms Donatello, this helmet does not come off. It kind of makes me wish we had just regular turtle heads for all of these MOTU Origins style turtles, but maybe we can get that eventually. So he has definitely more of the He-Man style armor. He's got, the He-Man chest armor. He does have shoulder pads and a forearm guard, which is more Man-at-Arms style than He-Man style. And he has additional belt. He also has kind of a fur back to his shell. And much like the Leonardo, you can pop off the shell from the armor, and you can use the shell as a shield. I will say it's a little weirder for the turtles to do that than the humans, but it is an option. Now, one thing that I think is cool, but I wish was executed better, is Leonardo's swords. So he famously has two swords, and with a bit of a nod to the original vintage He-Man line, where it took two halves of the power sword to connect together to get its full power. So Skeletor had one and He-Man had one. Leonardo has that same effect. And while together, it's actually a pretty solid sword that can attach to his back. Kind of, if you shove it in there, but I'm not going to do that. When they are separated, they're kind of flimsy, much like the vintage MOTU figures were. So, which isn't that big a deal for, your vintage MOTU figures. But when we're used to displaying Leonardo with 2 swords, and I think we would all prefer to display this MOTU style one with 2 swords, it is a little lacking when you have these pegs that connect the 2 together, and they're also kind of flimsy. The handles aren't very large, so it's not the best 2-sword approach for this Leonardo, which is a bit of a bummer. So now that I've opened them up and have played with these figures, I can safely say that I really do enjoy this new crossover between TMNT and Masters of the Universe. I think the designs are great. I think the toys turned out great. I think leveraging the Masters of the Universe Origins buck system for the turtles is really cool, even if the turtles are probably scaled a little bit too big to the humans in the line. The comic is a lot of fun. I look forward to seeing Wave 2 and hopefully waves beyond the figures that we've seen so far. I'll be curious to see if this toy line brings any new fans into the Masters of the Universe arena or brings people into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fandom. We'll have to see how this all plays out, but Wave 1 I thought was a really great first entry in this crossover. If you want to keep watching, check out this video, and until next time, hasta luego and goodbye.